Okay, so hi everyone. So we'll be continuing this from our last session to pick this up. So we introduced the terminology and the infrastructure of the resource group, right? So now we're going to introduce this idea called the resource manager logs. So the idea of the log is it to prevent an accidental deletion of a resource because we introduced before everything you need to be put into a resource group, right? So you, for example, this one you have let's say in production environment, you have SQL Server, you have 200, let's say 20 virtual machines and everything within a resource group, right? And some careless or stupid IT just select delete. So there's no way to recover it. There's no way. It's permanently purged. That's what caused a huge damage to your environment. So to prevent things like that, we Azure have this called the resource manager log, which there are two ways. It's a read only or delete. Basically, the read only is to prevent any changes to the resource, right? You cannot create anything more, like you cannot create another virtual machine or anything. But the more importantly, it can prevent the deletion. And by default, only the owner and the user access administrator can remove the log. Remember, just move the log, not delete the thing. Just you have to remove a log first. Even the owner of the resource cannot delete that unless the log has been removed. So the logs can be set on either the subscription level, the resource group level, or the resource level, right? And it will be inherited to the child resource. So let me demonstrate that real quick. So I have this just go to my here, right? I have this resource group. So you can see I have a logs here set by me, myself as the owner, and I have another user, so myself. You can set a guest as the owner as well, no problem. So as a contributor, right? Remember I said only the owner and the user access administrator can remove the log. The other one they cannot. Okay, so this one's a contributor. And we will talk about more about access control in later session, but for now, just know you can set the roles here for each resource or resource group or subscription. Okay, so now if the owner try to delete this, let's say delete. Let me just copy this. You have to input the name. So I click delete resource group, delete, bang, arrow. Right, it's locked and cannot be deleted. But more importantly, if I use my another account, let's say, right, this one is logging as the one I set as a contributor, right? So you can see he only sees this resource because he don't have permission over the other resource, right? So you click all resources, I don't see anything but this virtual machine, right? So let me go to the resource group and delete. Okay, same name, right? Same warning. But more importantly, if I go to the logs, you see you don't have permission to edit the log, right? He doesn't have permission. Only the owner have this permission, which is the right. So if I click here logs, you can see I can delete the log, right? So that's basically that's the idea of logs. And also there's a requirement. Sometimes you have to move the resource within a resource group to a different resource group, either within a same subscription or across subscription, but all have to be within your tenant level, right? You cannot cross tenant. You cannot move across your tenant. It's not possible yet. I don't think it will be possible ever, but still. So uh, there's a question comes up. So if I'm moving the resource from one place to another, doesn't matter is within the subscription or across, that's my service stop, right? So, for example, you have this web server that's hosting your company website, and you are moving this to a new resource group. So this may take, I don't know, 40 minutes. So this will be a downtime. My IT have to do this in the late night, so you don't have to worry. During this move, your service will still be up. It's no problem. But uh, during the time, like say 40 minutes, the resource will be locked, so we cannot really do anything to it. It's a temporary lock, so it will be automatically removed after the move complete. There are certain services that cannot be moved, like your domain controller, right? Your ADDS, your express route, and site recovery. So those cannot be moved. And also there are some resource that will create logs automatically, like the Azure Backup Service. So the Azure Backup Service, it can backup things, doesn't matter it's in your Azure or on-prem. This one will automatically create a log to that resource, so we cannot delete it. Just keep an eye, beware of the resource like this in your production environment. Right, so removing resource or resource group, it's fairly simple. I won't demonstrate this because it just, 2 clicks, right? You just ellipsis and delete, typing the name, that's it. So maybe 3 clicks in, right, typing the name. So, and the remove using PowerShell is fairly simple. You just have to type in the, make sure the syntax is correct, just type in the correct name, and for the resource, you have to type in the resource ID, all right? So that's it on our resource group. So we're going to talk about the ARM templates, which is very important in Azure for production environment. Yeah, so we will break down into this several sections. So the benefits of using a template, it's first of all, it's consistency, right? So the resource manager template provides a common language for you and others to describe your deployments. Regardless of the tools or SDKs you use to deploy the template, the structure, the format expressions inside the template remains the same. And also it helps to express the complex deployments. So the templates enables you to deploy multiple resources in the correct order. So we haven't introduced this yet, but in the next session, when I talk about virtual machines, you will see when you create a virtual machine, right, it asks you for a resource group, it asks you for a virtual network, it asks you for a storage account, etc., etc. So in the correct way to deploy everything is prior to deploy the virtual machine, as we talked about earlier, you have to create a resource group first, then virtual network, storage account, and etc. etc. But if you do not have those, you have to create those in order. You cannot create a virtual machine without those. It's impossible. Doesn't matter if you do it from the portal or PowerShell. It's the required values to do it. So the templates help you to remain that consistency and the process, right? So the template also reduce the manual error promo tasks. So the manually creating and connecting the resource will be time consuming. So easy to make mistakes, even though Azure leverage the cloud, power, I say. So you can create a virtual machine, right, according to specs in 2 or 3 minutes. But still, if you want to do this for your R&D people, let's say they want 10 machines doing this and that, so you have to do this. I would say minimum cost you 30 minutes, and then practice you don't make any mistakes, right? Because sometimes if you make mistakes, some mistakes are irreversible, right? So just to keep this in mind, but the template is once you have those in place, you can deploy them over and over again without making a mistake. Right? The first time you might make a mistake, but several tweaks in your code, that deployment will be successful across uh, you know years of production environment. And the templates are code, right? It's express your requirements throughout the requirement. So you can think about the template as a type of infrastructure, as code can be used, it can be shared, tested, and versioned similar to any other piece of software. Also, because the template are code, you can create a paper trail. Let's say it's a paper trail that you can follow. So the template code documents the deployment. Most users maintain their templates under the same, same let's see, the same some kind of revision control, such as the GIT. When you change the template, its revision history also documents how the template has evolved over time, right? Also, I would say the other benefits are same, right? It's promote reuse. It's linkable. You can link resource manager template together to make the templates themselves modular, or the template specify the authorization, right? It's basically the same benefits. So we're going to introduce the template schema. They're the sample here, right? So it's a JSON file, but it's not using the JSON language, just so you know. And you see all those values here, element, not really value, all the element here. There are some it's required when you deploy. So schema, it's required. Content version, like this 1.0.0.0, things like that. And you can have the resource also required. The others there uh, optional. You are feel free to read all those details on each of the resources online. Right? I won't introduce them much here because it's dull reading for you to listen, and you might fall asleep. So just look for them in the docs on Microsoft.com. It's explained much better here. There, sorry, not here. All right. So again, this section, there are several sections, right? There's a schema section, there's a parameter section, right? So this section, it's where you specify which values are configurable when the template runs. For example, you might allow users of your template to specify username, password, or domain name. So here's the example that's do that, right? So the username for the virtual machine, the password for the virtual machine, right? And this section, it's the variables, right? So the defines the values that's used throughout the template. So the variables can help make your template easier to maintain. For example, here we have this to for a virtual machine, this variables. They specify the network address and the subnet of the network, and also the name for the public IP address, right? So all that, it's I have to say it's the how to say your own customization, right? But here there is some thing that's already being available for you. The QuickStart template. There are over so the latest number is now 757. So let me go to there. See the correct number is I forgot which I have there. Yeah, so let me go back. Yeah, so there are 783 now compared to the time the PowerPoint is being made, right? So there's more. So this all for you to leverage. So some there are classic one like join VM to existing domain, join VM to AD domain, right? If you click this one, so you can deploy to Azure from here, or you can browse to GitHub. So if you browse to GitHub, it's there are more things for you to download and do the customization, right? So of course, if you choose to deploy to Azure, I have to sign in first, and okay, bear me a few seconds. It will open this template thing. Yeah, ask you to specify all the values because it's, as I said here, all the parameters you have to manually input. As I specify here, right? You have to put in everything and deploy. So the purchase, not like you purchase anything, just you have to, same as the create button we have for other resources, right? It's the create. But again, so there are 5 resources within, and you can edit the template here, right? In the cloud or use the Visual Studio. So anything that's you prefer. All right. So there's also a way to upload a template as well. So if you do your own customization, right? For example, you want to create a storage account, let's say, and you want to add one. Let's just quickly do anything, just a random number. All right. So review and create. You can see there's a download template for automation. Right? You can download the template. So after you download, you can use the way you prefer to edit the file. Once you finish editing, you can upload here. So click, let's say you want to add a resource, right? You just click template deployment. So you can create a template deployment and upload the, it's also asks you for this, right? So add template. So you can upload the file. Let's see, I have one here. So so it's uploaded, right? You can edit this one. So it's a storage account I have, right? So you can see all the values. It's versions for this we will talk about later. You just have to, for now, it's only a demonstration of the template thing, right? Okay. So let's say I have one here, right? So I have one in my uh, oops. Let me close this one. I have one here in VS Code. So there are 3 ways you can deploy a template. So either it's through the PowerShell or the VS Code or using Visual Studio. Uh, oh, I haven't done this. Yeah, so did I? Oh no. Sorry, my mind is a little stuck. It's been a long day. But anyhow, so I have this template here which I opened from a URL from GitHub. So you can type the GitHub address or any existing files. So once you're done editing, once you click save, so the way to do that in Cloud Shell, right? It's the icon's being updated for today. So okay, let's see. Uh, Yeah, we haven't introduced all the button last time, right? We introduced the Cloud Shell, but now we can have, so we can upload a file, right? From, oops, sorry, it's in a different monitor. Choose the file you want to upload. So I already uploaded, so you can see here. Oops, wrong $sign home. I have several things uploaded here, right? And you might ask, where are those things stored? So remember, I said when you first time you run the Cloud Shell, I ask you to create a storage account, right? So this is where it's stored. So it's if you go to a storage account, the one I use for Cloud Shell, if you go to your files, where's file? Oh, here. All right, this is the one that's used to store all of this. It's a IMF extension, so you can already see them here or browse the URL, but you can download them and open. You can see all the things related. Okay, so actually this is where your uploaded thing stored. All right. Okay, so uh, yeah, so here it's the file you have been the way you. Sorry, my all of a sudden my mind a little stuck. So for just let me. Sorry, I have to pause the video for not really pause. Let me to drink some water first. All right, so yeah, let's just deploy this resource. Okay, so let me copy this command here. Resource group name. So what's the resource group name I have? So for let's just enter this one. Paste. Oh, it's slow. Location East Asia. Huh, it's a little slow now for some reason. Say yes. Oh. Uh, Provide resource group already exist. Okay. I may enter the wrong location. Oops. So never mind. We just run again. Let's run again. All right. So let's do this again. Oops. Sorry. I've copied the command. AZ-103 demo. All right. Ooh. I think because I already uploaded one, that's the reason it's failing. The name doesn't match, right? So I think that's the reason. Oh, let me open this again, right? So the error says, right, because I already deployed one, still active. Okay, maybe that's the reason. Okay, never mind. So again, sorry for this failure, but you get the idea, right? How to deploy that. You have to specify all the values from this subscription, right? Not subscription, for this template, right? So let me just do this real quick. Check the thing I have here. So So if I upload, okay, because they're the same name, I see. Oh, it's not this folder. Okay, let me browse into the folder real quick. Save as. Hmm. My VS Code crashed. Shoot. Okay. So yeah, it's crashed. I cannot even click my mouse at the moment. So apologies for this. Let's just browse into another one. Just forget about this. All right, my bad. I might fix this and we will do the. I will redeploy this demo. I'll redo this demo for in the next session. But for now, let's continue this topic. Okay, so you can see there's a storage account actually being deployed in Central US, right? So uh, yeah. Anyway, okay. So another way we said it earlier is to use the Visual Studio, right? Uh, for Visual Studio, right, you have to install this. The link to download the Visual Studio 2017 is in the description, video descriptions. You can follow the link and go ahead and download, or you can just search, Google it, and do the download, right? So after you install, you have to uh, choose the Visual Studio installer. Just choose the one for Azure, right? So because we are using this for Azure, you don't want to choose Windows. We are not using this for Windows. So once it's installed, you click a new project, right? So you select resource, yeah, so a resource group, right? You just select this one, right? And we'll open the file here, right? We'll open the file here. And the one I have displayed here is I create a I want to also do a deployment for storage account. So it's fairly simple, right? You can add new item. Sorry, not here. So it's yeah, add new resource. Sorry, my mind is clearly not really works for me today, right? You can just choose the resource, right? It's all the resource the same you have in Azure. So you choose the storage account. We'll add the section here, right? So for people not familiar with Visual Studio, it's okay. You don't have to say, okay, there's hundreds of lines of code. What am I gonna do for this? So don't worry, don't be alarmed. Just if you click each the website, it will browse into the website section, right? Each one CPU, high usage, auto scale, storage, it's the one we just created, right? You just specify the names and everything. So don't be alarmed for this, right? There's no point in alarming. See it's hundreds of code, but it's okay. So for example, the parameters for the storage type. We will introduce this later, right? There is basically four storage type: locally, local redundant, zone redundant, geo redundant, read-only geo redundant, and all that, and Premier, of course. So basically four. So if you delete one, so this one will not be an option for you when you deploy. All right. So that's basically how it works. Again, we're going to only demonstrate the deployment for demonstration purpose, and we don't want to overcomplicate things. So if you click here, and you can choose new deployment, right? So it's asked for you. Let's bear with me for a few seconds. Right, subscription, I only have one. Resource group, right? You can create a new one. Let's just create a new one, right? So you can say what's in Japan East. It's closer to me. Give it a name, say Azure Resource Group 2. So I have one already successfully deployed this morning, but let's forget about that, right? Because I think I deleted that one. Did I? I think yes. So never mind. We just create this deployment. All right, so don't just hit deploy yet because you have to edit the parameters because the one I have here is not just a storage account, it's also a SQL Server as well. Right, so you have to specify all the values. Let's see, demo admin. For because it's a SQL Server, right? You just don't use, let's say, don't use the SA or admin, or root, things like that. You just use a different name. So specify a password. You're gonna reuse the password later as well, but just don't worry about it. So that's why we say don't save the password. The PowerShell command, right, that's used to deploy this resource will also prompt you for this password. So don't save the password. All right. But again, you save here. So okay, chip in. Okay, that's why it's empty. And just make sure everything's. Oops. All right. So yeah, this will probably in the background, but again, it will ask you for the password. Yes, I'm sorry, it's a Chinese, but you get the idea. It could run for a while, so yeah, you can see it's now creating the thing, right? The Chinese here means detailed information, uh, creating target, creating on target, or doing the deployments. So yeah, so let's just wait. I don't think it's gonna take too long. But for something that I want to say, so this morning when I do these deployments, right? So I got a few arrows like this, the first one, right? It says the return the following arrows, right? It's the arrow. So invalid template deployment, blah, 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 blah. The detailed information is uh, SQL Server something, something, the name of SQL Server, right? Was disallowed by the policy I have, require SQL Server version. So you might have this during production environment. It's very common, right? So I had this because I forgot to delete this policy I have earlier when I do another demo for another class, or actually a Chinese Chinese version. So the policy, what's the policy for? So after you learn this, when you're doing the production environment, we'll talk policy in later session as well. So the policy is to basically control what is allowed and what is not allowed. So you can see I do not want SQL Server 20, SQL Server 12, right? This is actually the policy. Require SQL Server version 12. I require this, right? If anything below that, it will cause a failure, right? Or it not cause a failure, it will not be deployed. Doesn't matter if you do it anyways in PowerShell, in Visual Studio, VS Code, in cloud, in the UI, it's will be prevented. And in your policy page, so uh, let's see if this is successful. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, successful, right? So sorry for my jibber jabber. Just want to tell some stories during the time so you just don't feel too boring and I don't want to pause the video. Let's say go into here and we go to, oops, let's just close this, refresh. Azure resource group 2. And when I click here, you can see the resource that I needed, a storage account, the SQL Server as well. Right, so that's basically my demo for this. And the policy thing, since I mentioned, if I don't finish the story, you might get pissed. So again, yeah, we will introduce this in later session in detail. But yeah, you can see the basically it's compliance settings for your Azure environment. So you can see what is allowed and what is not allowed. There are some default policies, but you can create your own, right? You can see you do not, for example, you can say I do not allow certain uh, virtual machines to be created or Windows version, let's say it's Windows client for creator update 1709, things like that. So you can set the policy from those templates, existing compliance policy template. All right, so that's our session for today. So it's a continuation from our last session. So next session, I will be talking about virtual machines, and following that is virtual networks, which break into two sessions. So uh, pretty much the most important two sessions in Azure. So thanks for watching. So see you in the next session.